Hi, I covered in quite a few videos about most of us are addicts, but I wanted just to very quickly focus on a special type of where our society is addicted. And before I go there though, I want to apologize. In my last video, I talked about 200 or 300 years ago, whether about addiction, but because I didn't want to make that video very long, I'm trying to keep the videos as brief as possible. I really didn't go into it, so it didn't flow very well, so I do make apologies. Anyway, what I'm going to discuss is what's really sad is the pharmaceutical companies. This is one area of addiction. And I've seen so many documentaries, and I'm sure you guys have too. I'm sure you're just as well informed as I am. One of the biggest money-making industries, businesses, whatever you want to call it, enterprises in Western, well, probably in the world, is the pharmaceutical company. There is money to be made in keeping us sick. I heard on the grapevine that there was a new, either it was antibiotic or an antiviral, but I'm not sure about that fact. I do know that the last antibiotic was made in the 1990s, and I know this because I studied this at uni. I studied at uni that, for example, in America, if I was a pharmaceutical company and I came up with a drug, it takes nearly 10 years for the FDA to approve my drug. And usually about 95% of drugs never make it that far. So yes, drug companies do invest a lot of money and to get their drug to marketplace. But I've also know of drugs that I can give you an example. I took a certain drug when I was pregnant, when I was in my 30s, and it was for nausea, and I miscarried. Now, we cannot directly prove that it was the drug, but later that particular drug was taken off the market because it was believed it did cause that. Imagine my horror to learn that about 2 decades later, the drug was back on the market under a different name. Anyway, what I wanted to say is where we're addicted to is pharmaceutical drugs. I'm not talking now about the illicit use of opioids. I'm talking about, for example, take 10 different pills, and I have to take them every day for all sorts of ailments. So the pharmaceutical companies make trillions of dollars on keeping us a sick society. Because can you imagine if they made something that cured diabetes? They'd lose money. If they made something that cured cancer, they'd lose money because they would invest all this money. Maybe if their trials were really good and everything, it would take quicker because this is a new thing like what happened with COVID, and they would get there. And yes, but to them, that's not worth it. It's more worth it to keep a diabetic on insulin. So we are addicted, society, pharmaceuticals. I have a headache, I'll go take an aspirin. Or I also am on special migraine medication. So this is just one area of addiction, that perhaps you didn't know about that pharmaceutical companies are making. As I said, lots of money, and it is just mind-blowing. It's probably the richest enterprise to be in, to be a pharmaceutical company. And that's one area where the pharmaceutical companies and the government bodies are keeping the population addicted. Also with vaccines and you name it. And I'm not going to say any more. You all know the score, and I'm sure you all know about it. So that's just one thing, and I just didn't want to say too much because I've already had one warning from YouTube, and I don't want to name things or anything or get into trouble, but just saying that, if, for example, antibiotics, a new super flu, if there was an antibiotic suddenly invented, because now a lot of bugs are now immune to antibiotics. Now remember, it's bacteria, and that's partly our fault because sometimes we don't take the dose for as long as we should, and sometimes it's just been overused, just given when we have a viral infection. Antibiotics don't work on viruses. So there's now these superbugs, and we haven't got new antibiotics, and it's not profitable for pharmaceutical companies to invest in that. It's more profitable to keep us chronically ill. Having said that, thanks for watching. Bye. Love you, go. And I won't be on for a while. Bye.